The World Health Organization has just released plans for the Bill Gates-funded Global Digital Health Passport. Is this going to be the framework for the mark of the beast? As this channel has been warning for the last year, the vaccine is just the vehicle. The true problem is the digital passports, which will restrict buying and selling and turn all of us into serfs of the government. And this week, the UN and the World Health Organization released the framework which we believe may become the enforcement for the mark of the beast. This crucial step into the end times is what we're talking about today, and we're starting right now. In this previous video, linked down in the description below, we discussed the theory that major world events are spiking in unison with the COVID-19 case spikes, and these might be the birth pangs of Matthew 24 described by Jesus. Every 4 months, a new COVID spike occurs, and world events have clustered around them. In that video, we mentioned we are in one of those spikes right now, the Delta variant spike, and the major event so far is the fall of Afghanistan. And in that video, we suggested there may be more events in this spike because it isn't over yet. And sure enough, not even 1 week after we released that video, here comes the WHO and the UN with the release of what may turn out to be the framework for the mark of the beast, maybe the most important end-time event that we've seen yet. This fits the pattern exactly. So let's start exploring what is happening now. The just released document is titled, quote, Digital Documentation of COVID-19 Certificates, vaccination status, end of quote. And guess what? It was funded by none other than the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation, the two most prominent entities in the COVID crisis. Don't forget, it was the Rockefeller Foundation in the 2010s that suggested in a white paper called Operation Lockstep that a global pandemic was the likely way to usher in totalitarian control. This World Health Organization document sets up a framework for a digital ID, just like Bill Gates has always dreamed of. And it describes the technical guidance for governments to roll out the program. And it's all because of COVID. Of course. This is so important because in order for something to be the framework for implementing the mark of the beast, it must be universal, a worldwide digital passport. And that is exactly what Bill Gates and the WHO are giving us. All the passports up until this point were localized, either in a city like New York City or in a nation like in Israel. Now, we aren't saying this is the mark of the beast. Please understand that. There is no beast yet, no number of his name, no false prophet yet. We aren't there. But this seems like the likely framework to us to implement and control the masses under that eventual program. Here is how the document describes that program. This document provides a starting point for member states to design, develop, and deploy a DDCCVS solution for national use in whatever format best suits their needs. Example, a paper card with a one-dimensional ID barcode, or QR code stickers, or fully functioning smartphone application developed internationally or locally. So this system will be flexible depending on whether or not the citizens of a nation have cell phones. If not, a card system will be used. Our guess is that when the full-blown mark of the beast system is finally in place, cell phones will be distributed to the 1/3 of the world population that doesn't yet have them. But in its infancy, this system will use cards as well. And here is how the document describes who will use this system. The primary target audience of this document is national authorities. It may also be useful to government partners such as local businesses, international organizations, non-government organizations, and trade associations. Essentially, the idea here is no work, no buying and selling, no school, no travel without one of these passports. You're looking at our future right now, we believe. This is called the Common Pass, and it was developed by your friends at the Rockefeller Foundation and the World Economic Forum, who just happen to be the two organizations most interested in the idea of a global reset. You know, the plan to eliminate all personal ownership of anything, to deindustrialize the West, introduce biometric surveillance like the Chinese social surveillance cameras, and it will fight climate change to boot. How can you beat that? You can see that all of these things will be merged into this common pass, or as I prefer to call it, the commoner pass, because everyone will become a commoner, a feudal serf of the state. This pass will not only measure whether you've taken the jab or not, but also what your carbon footprint is. It will be used for the carbon tax. They've stated it and freely admit it. Did you drive to work this week? Might mean your online digital bank account will be restricted. Did you have steak for dinner? Might be your only meat for an entire month. The jab may turn out to be only an excuse to implement this digital control device. Remember that. The digital health passport may be the real problem. It may be the ticket to world slavery and totalitarian control by a one world government. And eventually, it may morph into the device that enforces the mark of the beast. So the first step of this common pass is to ensure you took the jab. That was the purpose of the pandemic, to get you to take the jab. And the purpose of the jab is to get you to take the global digital passport, something only a very few would be willing to do voluntarily. This week, Australia began to build their version of a quarantine camp to imprison those who don't take it. Now, it's our thoughts that Australia will be the test country for this type of imprisonment. If you see this type of imprisonment happening in Australia within the next couple weeks or months, know for sure that imprisonment is coming everywhere and in the nation you live in as well. Even though the jab is much less effective than scientists told us it would be, imprisonment's still coming, folks, regardless, and more jabs. The second step will be to digitalize currency and to connect it and your carbon tax to the pass. Pay attention to this one. In the USA, they are already discussing creating a digital dollar. Biden is fully in support of a universal global carbon tax. He has said so. And once these two things, your savings and bank account and a tax, are both on the same app, look out, because that tax will then be able to drain your accounts. You heard that here first. That is the purpose of the carbon tax. It will be low at first, but eventually it will be jacked up so high it drains everything that you have. The third step is to set up surveillance cameras and listen in on your cell phones to create a surveillance and police state, just as the social credit system did in China. Think about the 5G and coming 6G networks that are being set up. Think about the Internet of Things that controls appliances in your house. We did a video on the Chinese system 1.5 years ago, and its link is down in the description as well. There will also be a link to that video at the end of this one, It is an absolute must-see. This is something you need to know about before it happens to you. Part of that system will be the setting up of a world police force made up, most likely, of UN forces to keep you in order. Do you wonder why they are suggesting to defund the police? It's so the UN forces can become the police. It is unlikely that your local sheriff will enforce some of the things that are coming down the pike. But someone from Afghanistan imported into your hometown by the UN most likely will enforce it. Then, once they have all that in place, the fourth step is to make the gospel illegal. And then the final step is forced worship of the man in charge, the Antichrist. It's at that point we will see the mark of the beast. It's not yet. This is just the system that will eventually enforce it. If you wonder why the world has seemed so crazy over the last 20 months, this is why. And the UN and World Economic Forum seem to be behind it all. Now, if you still have an ounce of faith in the World Economic Forum, here's what they say themselves that they have created. Quote, governments no longer are the overwhelmingly dominant actors on the world stage, and the time has come for a new stakeholder paradigm of international governance, a joint state and non-state governance system. Klaus Schwab, Wikipedia site. In other words, the UN is planning to become a one-world government taking over the independent states of the world. Welcome to 1984, and COVID-19 was the vehicle. Makes you wonder how we got it in the first place, doesn't it? Here is how the World Economic Forum is further described in Wikipedia. The Forum is hence planning to replace a recognized democratic model, and that means countries like the USA, Australia, Britain, etc., probably one of the countries where you live, with a model where a self-selected group of stakeholders, and that means the global elites, will make decisions on behalf of the people. Imagine that. We are increasingly entering a world where gatherings such as Davos are a silent global coup d'etat to capture governance. And these are the same people putting out the Common Pass. If you think their intentions are benevolent, think again. Their intentions are totalitarian control. So now let's get real. Let's talk about where this is coming from. I think it's the UN. And my question is the UN the Bible's mystery Babylon? You may have problems with that, and we are about to address all of those problems. If Mystery Babylon is the UN, God commands us that we are to come out of her, my people. Revelation 18:4. So we better know, and know for sure. And we must know how to come out of her. We are going to discuss this in the future episodes, so if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, while you're still able to subscribe and still able to watch. And what about that Chinese social credit score and surveillance system? One where your income is more dependent on your compliance than your skill and hard work. One where non-compliance can lead to imprisonment or death. Was China a test run of what the globalists plan to do with the rest of the world? Click right here to keep watching. And we will take you inside China for a look at this horrific system, because it's what we might see in the near future. Till then, this is Nelson, and I'll see you there.